Hey, good afternoon to my automotive aftermarket peoples in North America and around the world. Carm Capriato, week number 285, Town Hall Academy. I've always wanted to do this topic in depth that we're going to do for you today, identifying your ideal customers. And as my friend Joe Marconi says, all I want is for those people to come in and drop their keys and say, fix it, Joe. Am I right, Joe?
That's true. Those are your true profile customers. Yes.
Let's bring them up on the screen here right now. I'd like to introduce my team to you. Joe Marconi. Oh my, Joe, your resume is so long, but I'm only going to read like four things of it. Osceola Garage Automotive Center in Osceola, New York. You recently, I believe, sold your
Well,
business.
sold, not retired. Sold.
Not
Yes.
retired. I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
And
It's a
I
big
and I will
difference.
and I will
Yeah.
explain the I'm not retired moment. Elite
Yeah.
worldwide business development coach. And you've been with Elite for so long. I know you teach some of their most outstanding classes.
Yes.
The co-founder of autoshopowner.com. It's a great website, great place to hang out if you're a service professional. And thank you so much for posting our content there.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
And columnist for Ratch and a Wrench. Are you doing the
Yeah.
keynote this year?
Yeah. Keynote in September.
Jeez.
Should be good.
All right. So I aspire to have all your energy as I continue to age elegantly.
Me too.
Marty Long is with us. Hills and Dales Auto Care, Northwest Canton, Ohio, near the Football Hall of Fame. Hey, Marty.
Yes, sir. Hello. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, glad you're here. And Brian Lagas. Brian, am I saying that right?
It's Lagos, actually.
Lagas, the principal at Speed Sport Tuning in Danbury, Connecticut. You do Euro, Porsche, vintage competition vehicles. It's so cool. I'd love to see your place.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime. Come on down. I'll give you a tour. Thank you for having me today, too.
So and both Marty and Brian are new voices, and Joe, thanks for pulling this together. I know they're
you're
clients. They're clients of yours. Look at we're coming to you live from the Remarkable Results Radio podcast studio, and we're sponsored by our great friends at Shopware. If you're with us by okay, well, let's do the Shopware spot. Are you spending your nights at the shop or worrying about the shop? You shouldn't have to do that. Get the numbers you need to see what's going on with each tech and each profit center, thanks to advanced analytics at Shopware. Get shopware.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. Hey, if you're with us, let me see. We are off our script just a bit, so I apologize for that. Shari and Jeff Pheasant will be with us this coming Tuesday, July 19th, for our Aftermarket Weekly. And if you're with us on social media, please check in, say hi. And we, of course, can see your comments here in the studio. Love to do that. Well, guys, look at, I mean, Joe, there's nothing better than saying, just drop your keys, just take care of my car. And if that's an ideal customer, well, how do you nurture that? How do you find that? And I saw Joe present at the Elite Invitational in San Diego, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago now. I'm not even sure. Could be 2 months as fast as time goes. And I was so impressed that I went up to him and I said, listen, would you come on, bring a panel, and let's take your principles and what you've done in your business to sort this out. We all want customers that are easier to retain, and we'll just want to drop. If there's a metaphor to drop the keys, that means it's an ideal customer.
Right,
so
right.
It's more target marketing than mass marketing, and especially the way we hit so much. Let's just throw $50 at Facebook and see what happens. But if you could find out exactly, Joe, who it is that you need to target, it's going to stretch your dollars.
Well, I think that's the key point here. A lot of us in business, and we think that we have to be everything to everyone, and that's not the case. And early on in my career, I tried to be that. I tried to mimic some of the chains. Back then, you come in for a set of struts and you could get a free alignment and things like that. And I found out that it's very difficult to sell to that type of customer until you built relationships with. So I kind of got away from that mass merchandising type of mindset and went toward a more targeted mindset. And if you're a Walmart, a Target, you look at business differently than a Ruth Chris Steakhouse or a Eddie V Steakhouse. So, and we want to be more in line with understanding who our true customer is for the long term. If you can build a customer base through relationships, you'll have long-term customers. You don't have to worry about the churn and burn, getting new customers. You'll always need new customers, but in order to identify your true profile customer, it's all about relationships and building those strong relationships. And that's, if you think about it, that's what most of the independent world does. They don't rely on the heavy advertisement budget and the marketing budget, that enormous marketing budget. They're more targeted to the community. Understanding that mindset will build a stronger database and a stronger long-term business.
Joe, I'm a struggling shop owner, and I'm just taking anything that walks in the door. I mean, I'm just, got a sandwich sign out front. I'm doing anything that I possibly can.
Yeah.
They all come in. Is there a point in time in the chaos that I'm creating that I need to stop for a moment and say, wow, there were really a couple of great customers that walked in that I could build a strong business around?
Yeah, and that's another good point, Carm. There's a time and place for everything. And if you're a struggling shop owner, you've only been in business 6 months, a year, you don't really understand your market yet, then yeah, you may be at a point where you've got to take in these customers because you don't know, especially if you're independent repair, all makes, all model, which is getting very difficult these days to do. But if you take the mindset that you're going to start building relationships with customers, find out who they are, what they do on the weekends, find out about them. Do they have kids in Little League? Are they involved with fundraisers? Once you start building relationships, it has to be your culture. And everyone on the counter, everyone that speaks to customers, it has to be that culture. You will find that if you take this mindset, you'll start building strong relationships with customers. And then you'll find out that these customers are probably the ones that eventually will throw the key in the counter and say, Carm, I'm here for that 60K. Just do it. Call me later. That's what you really want.
Marty, in the case of your business, or in the case of what we're speaking to here, somebody walks in and they're really an ideal customer. Do you basically take their name, or do you put it in a bucket and you say, oh my God, this is an ideal, or basically take that customer list? I mean, get some data from the computer and sit down and look deeply in volume and type of vehicle and mileage that are there, the kind of work we did, if it's maintenance, did we sell them tires? I mean, all of that stuff for you, does that matter in helping build an ideal customer?
So it's like, I started out a lot like Joe did. We've been here 22 years. At the beginning, we were taking everything in, high car count, low ARO. As we grew and things evolved, our reputation, our image, at that point, we were able to look at history, what we've done, and target our ideal customer. We call them our gold star customers.
Cool.
They come in, they want something, like Joe would say, they toss the keys on the counter, call me when it's done. Our schedule's packed. Gold star customer comes in, it's yes, sir, we'll get it done. We'll get it in somewhere along the way. And as we've been in business 22 years, and as things go, as we've grown and changed and adapted to the climate, our car count has gone down, our ARO has gone up. As far as radio has been awesome for us for attracting new clients. My daughter, she does our radio ads. She's been doing it. She's 20 years old now. She's been doing the radio ads for 13 or 14 years.
Yeah.
We've had the same guy write the ads. It's all branding, imaging. People talk about the ads. We never offer a promotion, a special. It's all who we are and what we're about.
So if at the end of the day, Brian, if I could say, and again, without getting scientific, Joe, without really trying to pull a lot of data and do a lot of research,
Yeah.
would we say that this customer knows us, likes us, and trusts us, and they're an ideal customer?
Those are definitely key characteristics that I look for, and data is data and it's important. But I think, at the end of the day, what has really been valuable in our development of our customer base is really building relationships and fostering relationships with the people that clearly recognize the value that we bring. And, the that side of the marketing for us at least stems from those relationships and understanding how those people interact with us and the value that they see in us. And of course, we're promoting the value that we offer, but to some people it's obvious, and to others you really kind of have to point it out. And the people where it's obvious to them right from the get-go, they seem to evolve into those customers that, like Joe describes. It's like, sure, do whatever it needs. I trust you. We've established this relationship, and we're gonna continue without question, almost, because they do see that value in what we do. They understand that we're professionals and we're going to look out for their best interest. So to take that type of relationship and say, how can I get more of these relationships, has really been beneficial for us.
Yeah.
So how they found you is key, right? I mean, do you care if
It
there
is,
was
yeah.
a songbird, another customer who was a songbird who was really speaking in your behalf?
Yeah, word of mouth is strong. I mean, that's, it's at one point I relied in my first business, in my first shop, I relied almost exclusively on word of mouth customers. And, it's not the best way to grow your business, because obviously marketing is a huge component to this, but that word of mouth customer comes to you without trust issues. Their neighbor told them, their uncle told them, their dad told them. They said, "Hey, you got to see
That's
these
key.
guys. They're not going to waste your time. They're not
Yeah,
going to rip
that's
you
key.
off. So this is a good
Yeah.
place to go."
Yeah.
So they show up on day one, and they're prepared to have a solid, honest relationship with you.
Yeah. You see, Carm, let me just piggyback on that, because, when you speak about marketing and advertising, if you can identify your profile customer, two things are going to happen. You want to continue to market and brand to your profile customer. You want to keep yourself top of mind in their brain. You never want them forgetting about you. But what you're actually doing is you're reaching your profile customers over and over. And you're also targeting the same lookalike audience, which you're going to stand a much better chance of gaining those customers too. It's a much more effective way. Trying to be everything to everybody, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It works for a short period of time. And like you mentioned before, yeah, maybe there is a time and place to do that, to try to bring everything in. But there comes a time in our business where, like Brian said too, you have to understand the value that you bring. Some customers see it immediately, and like Brian said, some customers you have to show them the path.
Joe, I don't want to steal too much of your great thunder from Elite, but the notes that I took were so succinct. You had three basic steps, and by taking that, it reminded me of the 80-20 rule.
Yep.
Basically, it kind of exists.
Yeah.
But let's talk about something that you did talk about there, and it was a little psychographics, right? We always
Yeah.
have these demographics, where they live, how much
Yeah.
money they make.
Yeah.
But can you cover a little psychographics so that we
Well,
can
yeah.
understand in our gut, where are we going with this ideal customer?
Yeah, and don't forget, I'm not presenting this from a standpoint of a psychologist or anything, but I learned a lot about people, and I did some research on demographics and psychographics. And there's only so much data you can get from your computer system, your business system. You can know about their cars they drove, where they drive, where they live, mileage they put on, what they've done, maintenance, repairs, whatever type of customer. But when you understand your profile customer, you need to understand the psychographics of your demographic customer, if that makes sense. And what that means is, what do they like to do on the weekend? What are they involved with? Are they involved with fundraisers? Do the kids play local sports? What do they like to do? Like to read? Radio station they like to listen to? These things you cannot understand from your database, but you will understand by building strong relationships. Part of this whole process is, how does the service team interact with the customers? So let me give you an example. If we find out that a, a lot of our customers are involved with the local sports association for youth sports, then we're going to be heavily involved in that area. Again, to do two things: reinforce our brand to our existing profile customers and reach the same lookalike audiences that match up to your profile customer. So psychographics are, what do they like to do? Who are they as people? Geography brings them together, right? They live in the same area, but what's common about them is what they do on the weekends, after school activities. That's what holds them together. What's common about them? So psychographics, it lends itself in a way that makes you understand your customer even better than you think you did.
Yeah, it's nice to know how much they make and how many miles they may drive back
Yeah.
and forth.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know their values, their attitudes, their interests, their whole lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
And I remember, and again, I think I quote the author to be wrong, but I think it was DeJulius came up with this acronym called FORD, FORD. And if anyone has a CRM system attached to their software, or you track details about your customer, F is for family, and O is occupation, R is recreation, and D is dreams. And as much as you can find out the stickers on the car, what's in the back seat of the car, are there any wrappers from a fast food place in the car? There's so much to learn about that customer. And all of a sudden, customer may come in, have something in the back seat, and you say, wow, I had no idea they were into that, or they had an interest like that. Well, that helps you understand the psychographic of that particular customer. And are we playing in that sandbox?
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that also, in my experience, leads into the further development of that relationship. So now, like you just said, maybe that person has a set of golf clubs or a tennis racket or something in the back of their car, and it gives you a talking point to say, hey, I also play tennis at the local club. I don't play tennis, but I'm just using that as an example. There are so many things that you can kind of just get them talking, and then once you have that relationship, then you learn more and more about them, and then that opens up more and more opportunities, even from a marketing perspective, because you may find out that that person belongs to a country club, or they belong to a book club, or whatever the case may be, and now that is a new opportunity for you as a business owner to kind of infiltrate that, to say, look, we can be part of this too, and not only just from an advertising perspective and come see us, but more of, can I sponsor it? Can I do something for you? Can I do something for your club or your interest, which may also bring more of similar like-minded people into my company.
Listen, I love where this is going, Joe. I have a really important question to ask you, but let's take another time out for Shopware real quick. Gauge your day's profits at a glance so you can ramp things up or close up early. With Shopware's capacity dashboard, you see who's rocking the bay and how many dollars you can still squeeze in. Talk to my friend. Hey guys, Joe, look, you're building this ideal customer in your mind, and we talk a lot about avatars, and ultimately maybe coming up with the name of that ideal customer. But when you start going down that pathway, how often do you engage your people in seeing how this is filtering up? Because I would have to believe that your counter and even your technicians know an awful lot who your ideal customer should or could be.
Yeah. You're right about that. And I think it has to be part of your culture, part of what you do each and every day. You cannot, number one, in any company like ours, which is a service-oriented company, is to understand the customer, to take care of the customer, to know the customer. So I used to tell my service advisors, if you see something, if they come in with a dog, with a kid dressed in a, maybe a hockey uniform, whatever, or they have a set of golf clubs that are taken out of the back of the car, That's an opportunity to make a connection. And I said, put that in the remarks section of your business system. This way, next time, especially if they're a first time or second time customer, it has to be part of every single, it can't be, let me have your keys. Yes, you're bringing in the Buick today. Yes, we'll do those brakes. It can't be that. It has to be all about the customer. Everything should be a conversation. And when they pick up the car, if it's a Friday or Thursday, what are you doing this weekend? If it's a Monday, what did you do this weekend? And those questions has to be, they must be, presented in a way that you're really trying to find out, all about them. And like I said earlier, if we find out that, a bulk of our profile customers are going to be at the heart walk or the blood drive on the weekend, then we got to be part of that. We've got to be part of that. What's better than my customers sitting in the bleachers on a summer night and they see my logo on the back of the kid's shirt and a billboard out on the ball field, and what pride they take. Oh, that's my auto repair shop. Yeah. And then how does that? It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of community. It's a sense of culture, and then it's powerful marketing when you understand it. We don't think we sometimes we think that we want to be everything to everybody, like I said earlier, and we should be nice and polite to everybody. But when you come down to it, build your marketing program and build your advertising program based around what's important to your key profile customers.
Got it. Hey guys, I want to ask Marty or Brian, and I don't know which one, but tell me, who's deep into this discovery zone of ideal customer? Marty, have you been doing it a long time?
Yes, we have been doing it a long time. Joe and I, we've talked about it, quite a bit. And, Joe's an awesome coach and helps me with it. And, it's just a lot of asking the probing questions and, getting to know your customers and what they're into. And like you said, it's just, whether it's your logo or your name on the back of the kids' shirts or at the football stadium, just being involved, getting out there, and the culture that is in your shop. Myself and
what I'd like to ask is this question: is it working? Now, don't answer that, but is it working? And if it is, then is there less stress on your people?
Yes, it is working. More stress on my people because, as we constantly grow, our customer base is growing. And
okay. But if you had the ideal customer there and you didn't have some of the hassles that it comes from, what's the price? It's price, right? Ideal customers don't ask about price, or at least they're concerned about it, and you want to do a great job, but they may not strong arm you in every single transaction. So I just think there's got to be less stress with an ideal customer.
Well, we always want to keep growing. We don't want to be stagnant. We want to keep growing. We want to keep cultivating our great customers. We want to keep adding to them.
Joe, what's your take on less stress on your people?
Well, I think Marty's talking about
growth.
His growth and his keeping your foot on the pedal. And I agree with Marty. And Marty's right on target there. He really is. I think what you're speaking about, Carm, is the other aspect of it. It's much easier when you have a customer that's been there for 5, 8, 10 years, a customer, and they come in 4 or 5 times a year, and that customer needs brakes or tires. There's no real, I get to a point, I tell my service advisors, get to a point where it's not selling, it's just telling. And if they, if your brother came in, if your best friend came into your shop today and they needed brakes and tires, would they really say no to you? No. Is it really about price at that point? No, it's not about price. We have to be competitive, but we got to be profitable, and you got to know that balance. But yeah, in terms of what I would like to, let me tell you something. Before I remove myself from the counter, I used to handpick on the schedule, Jones, Smith, to go down the schedule. Those are the ones I knew were my profile customers, and you can sell them anything because it's a relationship. So yeah, and that what you're trying to express, Carm, there's a lot less stress involved than trying to bring in a lost leader customer or bring in a discounted customer and then trying to sell them. So you gotta understand those two differences.
Let me offer a different word then. Smooth.
It's smoother.
It's the quality. It's the quality of your interactions, that really set the tone for your day. And I think
Good
that,
point.
stress is one thing. Stress is always here. I mean, we're busy, 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 and that's just the nature of the industry. But if you're stressed because you're busy, or you're stressed because somebody's beating you up all day, those are much different scenarios. And the ideal customer, for the most part, is not going to beat you up. And that just makes your day a heck of a lot easier and a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, good point.
So guys, let's go down this crazy list. You got 1,000 customers in your database, and Joe's sitting down with you and says, okay, let's find out the psychographics of this ideal customer list. Because if you ever want to be crazy enough to go to Facebook and try to figure out who we're going to advertise to, we just don't want to do it. We don't want to shoot a shotgun. We want to shoot a rifle.
Shoot a rifle.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, Joe, what's the number that if the people that are listening here and saying, well, yeah, I got a couple thousand customers that kind of are active, but it's not always smooth.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
What
you're right.
What should I get down to? What
Well,
should I really look at to really find out?
It's the 80-20 rule. Further than that, it's the 80-20 rule. And then, well, let me just back up a second. We could have 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 people on our customer base. If you've been in business as long as I have, I was in business over 40 years. So that database is large. What we have to look at is how many of those customers are active customers. So when you look at your active customers, you could have 3,000, 4,000, 2, whatever it is. You got to take 20% of those customers. And that 20% of your customers, the 80-20 rule applies there. And it's going to generate about 80% of your profits and sales. Yeah. But in order to build a marketing program around what your true profile customer is, what I did, I took 20% of the 20%. So that's how I got down to about 200. And then from there, I started chipping away at it. So you got to take the 80-20 rule first, and then 20% of the 20% to get down to about those customers. Now, it sounds like, well, that's a select few. Yeah, it is a select few. But what you're doing here is you're building your marketing program. Again, you don't want to be like this. Like you said, you don't want to be a shotgun, which is spread out. You want to shoot a rifle, which is targeted.
But shoot a rifle for the marketing campaign. I mean, you're not saying I'm only going to do business with 200 people. I got 10,000 in my database.
You need everybody.
But
you need everybody.
You need everybody.
You
but
need
if
everybody.
You're going to spend money to attract the ideal customer, you want to know, where am I spending it? And you want to know when that person walks in, there's 2 cars in the family. They're easy. They look like they're going to be easy to do business with. They got to go. You've basically said to yourself, wow, my marketing is working. The people I want to do business with are coming in the door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, you don't always know. Like, you bring a customer in, it could be because they heard about you through Facebook, through a radio program, a radio spot. It could be any number of reasons why they came to you. So you don't really know. That's why if you have 10,000 people in your database and you have people coming in all day long, you got to be nice to everybody. You have to be equal to everybody, the same respect, everything that applies the same, because you don't always know in the very beginning how that customer, because they go through cycles. They're testing the waters too. They're trying you out too, right? They want to find out about you. You want to find out about them. But the sooner you can start building the relationship right on the counter, and every single time they come back to build that relationship, when they return, you just want to do all you can to continue and foster that mindset. It's a much stronger, more powerful way to establish your business in the long term.
Yeah, and as Marty was saying, they become a gold. What's it called, Marty? Your customer?
Gold star.
A gold star. I mean, you're really, you're winking over here. Gold star. I mean, you're seeing what's coming in. Your target marketing is working, and Joe, you said this. You got to treat everybody identical, everybody the same. Yet, they're proving to you that they're your ideal customer, and you may just go a little longer, more miles to make sure that person stays.
Oh yeah, like Marty said, when that customer comes in, it's a gold star customer. the world has to stop and say, yeah, I know we're booked. But that grinding noise, okay, we're gonna take you in. We're gonna check it out. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's stop one more time. I got to come back. Brian, I got a great level of curiosity to ask you something. Ordering parts can suck the joy out of anyone's day. You know that, but you can break it up with Parts Matrix and order spark plugs in seconds if you use Shopware's native parts catalog. Browse every shelf based on price or fit. See my friends at getshopware.com. So finding an ideal customer, Brian, let's talk about the market. Let's talk about community. Chamber, BNI, Lions Club, Rotary, all of those. Are you members of any of them? Do you participate with any of them? Does that help?
I have dabbled with basically anything and everything that could potentially be an option. Whether it's a club, a business organization, a sporting event, a racetrack, you name it. What I have found over the years is anything to do with people's children helps, in the sense that, like Joe was talking about earlier, sports teams, kids, events. To be in front of those types of environments is always a good and positive thing, because you're just supporting the community. So that's critical. But I think, going back to the understanding of your ideal customers, your existing ideal customers, and really finding those avenues to get in front of people that are unique and out of the box. Marketing is, as we all know, a very, very tricky animal. And I'm not a marketing professional. I have ideas and thoughts, and I employ and hire people who are capable of handling the things that I am not. And I have a kind of a 3-tiered marketing team here. I have, one guy that just does social media. I have one guy who does our, print ads and works with the website. And I have a SEO guy who does the website and the SEO. So, I mean, it's a multi-dimensional thing, but I think really just being within your community, being creative and finding the best ways to get in front of people that might actually have a sense of like pop or surprise. Because I'm the guy who, I go home, I go through the mailbox and I see all the flyers and all the things, and I throw them right in the trash. Why? Because it's not unique. There's nothing there that's grabbing me. So, I've tried the, kind of the mass mailers, and we still do them periodically. Even targeted mailers based on the DMV grand list, where it's like, I know this customer owns, or potential customer owns, a vehicle that we specialize in, and you send those types of target audience mailers out, and you might get a 1% return, if you're lucky. And I think that you get more return if you're in an environment where it really stands out to people. We, for example, we have a pretty heavy presence in the motorsport world. So I advertise heavily at the racetrack. My name is everywhere. I try to be as active as possible. And that's my clientele. So those people see my name, and they understand that I'm involved and the company's involved. They see my guys, they see all of our employees, and my employees are friendly and willing to help, whether you're our client or not, in those environments. And it's memorable for people.
Yeah.
And I think that is important, being memorable, because not everybody needs you right now, but maybe their neighbor does a year from now, and they say, oh, what, maybe the guys over at Speed Sport, they can help you out. And that really goes a long way.
That's powerful. What Brian just said is powerful, because he summed it up beautifully. To send mass mailers out, direct mail, I mean, there's a place for that. But to think you're going to be this mass marketer and attract people, that's not how it works. The perfect example is, Brian understands his customer base at the track. That's part of what he does, motorsports. And what he's doing is he's reinforcing his brand to his existing customers, and yet also targeting the same type of customer. And that's what it's all about. You summed it up beautifully, Brian. Perfect.
Yeah, and I think the mass marketing thing is I don't in our industry, like we're a small component of what's going on out there. So, for us to mass market, it falls on deaf ears often, I think. And we are so targeted, especially in my company, we're so kind of hyper specialized. It's hard to just throw a blanket advertisement out there and hope you get something back. So it goes back to, spending your money wisely and really having that kind of accuracy, rifle accuracy in who you're trying to reach. This is a tiny percentage of the population that we're trying to reach out to and get in front of. And the more effectively we can do that, of course, the more effective it'll be in producing results for us.
Great stuff, Brian. Thank you. Marty, can you share anything on where you're spending your time in community or for your target Gold Star customer?
Sure. Years ago, when my kids were in junior high and high school, they were involved in sports. We dealt with baseball, basketball, lacrosse, football. We sponsored every sport my kids were in. My daughter, band, Boy Scouts. Whatever they needed. We were there. We took care of it. We made a lot of great contacts with the parents. High school years, all the kids have cars now. Where are they going to take the car? And like Brian said, you might not need us now, but we're out there for you.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You sound like every parent in the world. Whatever Susie or Johnny needs, we are there.
We are there.
we are there. Yeah. Joe, guys, listen, I want to kind of put a bow on the show by asking you, I think, a very big, important question, and you may or you may be unwilling to share, but can you give us some of the traits, if you will, of your ideal customer? What Joe, you worked very hard at this. What's the profile or the, if you will, psychographic of what you discovered?
Okay. That's a tough question.
Okay.
No, it's a tough question only because there's a lot that goes along with that.
Sure.
So because it's not as narrow. I know a lot of people want to define it. A lot of businesses want to define their customer with right down to a component. It looks like this and it talks like this, and this is and that's not as easily understood in terms of what a business is looking for. So, but some of the examples I would give are family, married, millennials to just about retirement age, income over $100,000 in my area.
Right.
In my area, they drive usually an Asian car. 2-car family. They commute back and forth to work. They have a third car in their driveway, which is usually an SUV or pickup truck. So those are some of the demographics. Then the psychographics would be community involvement, fundraisers, sports associations, PTA. They listen to, they like to read the local town papers because those newspapers are all about the kids and all about the events that's going on. They're very involved with all the local farmers market, whatever's going on locally. So those are some of the psychographics. So as you can see, that's the reason why I said it's not that easily defined to just one particular area.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
but it's a little wider than I think everyone may be thinking, Joe, because you just rattled off,
I know,
12 to 14
I know.
traits. And I think it was important for our audience to hear that. There isn't this little tiny, 5-pack, 6-pack of ideal traits, and not everyone's going to fit that mark. But when you find someone who's active in the community, who's got a booth at the farmers market because they sell quilts, then man, that's a Gold Star customer, right, Marty?
Yeah, that is correct, and that's what we're after.
How about you? Any traits you could provide us?
Pretty much so, a lot like what Joe said, that's kind of what we look for also. We support community. Myself, I'm active in the community. My wife is active in the community. We try to get out and, promote as much as we can. But, it's all gaining the trust and respect of your customer, whether it's a customer now or, if they're going to use you in the future.
Got it. And how about you, Brian? Can you share anything with us as to who your ideal customer would look like?
Yeah, I think kind of like you pointed out after what Joe was just saying, it's really pretty broad. It's
Okay.
broad because we can't pinpoint that target group down to the point where it's strictly based on demographics and data. So it's very interactive. I have many customers who may not spend a lot of money, but they are still an excellent customer because they again see the value in what we do and they appreciate us and they are wonderful to interact with, and they also spread the word for us. And there's as much value in that as a guy who comes here and spends some astronomical amount of money every year on his vintage Porsche. But I think it comes down to the business too. Demographics are important, but you really have to ask yourself as a business owner, as a shop owner, and say what is it that's important to me in this customer, because it's not always just about the money. There's a lot more to it, and for me, going back to that 80-20 rule, a big component of that 80-20 rule for me is how easy is that person to deal with. And going back to, I'm going to drop the keys on the desk and you're just going to do what it does. And you're going to charge me what you charge me. And I trust you. Ultimately, that's what you want. But it takes a lot to get there and develop that relationship with all of the different personalities out of there. And the psychology component to it is huge. I mean, you have to interact with every personality on an individual basis and adapt to what it is that they need from you. Of course, within the model of what it is that you offer and the quality and value that you offer to the clients. So it's a hard thing to pinpoint, but ultimately, yes, they should be fairly affluent, own multiple vehicles in my case, and ideally have one kind of fun vehicle, which is oftentimes where people are willing and happy to spend money. We do a lot of Porsche here, and Porsche in the Northeast is not an active vehicle year round in most cases. So we have a small window to work with those folks, and they want to get the most out of that driving season, and they're willing to invest in that car that they love and they're passionate about, even more so than their daily driver that needs to be reliable and safe. The fun car is really where they want to spend money. So for us, that's important.
Joe, he just said a mouthful there, and I love what he said about it's kind of, it could be our way, but it still needs to be their way.
Yeah, well, he's right. Brian hits a nail right on the head. We have customers that have been with us for, well, before I sold my business, 30 years, 35 years. And if you watch the progression of these customers that, 30 years ago, they had young kids. Now they're retirement age. They don't fit into this, what this customer looks like, but yet they're true profile customers. So, I think it really matters of the ease of the transaction when the customer comes to the counter, and how willing that customer is to stay with you because how strong they value the relationship. That's what it's all about. And it's not what we do either, by the way. It's not what we do that matters. We all basically, except for Brian, but most repair shops do the same thing, right? They do the same thing. So we all fix cars, and what brings, my brake job, is it really better than Marty's? And my oil change is better than Marty's. I mean, that's subjective in some cases, It's not to say we don't need to do the perfect job, as perfect as possible. And, but it really comes down to how the customer views you and how strong they feel about wanting to support you too in the community. And that's what it comes down to.
I want to make a comment, Joe, about you always saying my business. And I don't think you'll ever stop saying that. So don't. Don't.
I'm trying. It's only been 6 months, so it's only
don't
been 6.
Stop.
Yeah, I know.
I got to tell you all about Joe. I started the podcast in March of 2015, and Joe was with me in episode 11 and 12 back in May of 2015. So you were one of the pioneers that said, "Oh, this is a cool idea. I'll give
Yeah.
this guy a shot, and you did
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 7 years later, 20,
Yeah.
over 1,000 episodes. Thank you so much for that. I got to make a comment quickly about one of the things that Scott Felser said, who was with us here on Facebook. He says, we're not in the auto repair business. We're actually in the relationship business. We fix more people than cars.
Yep.
And, that's not a bad way to think about finding your ideal customer, because it's not about the car they bring in. It's really about them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
100% accurate.
yeah,
It's 100% accurate. Yeah.
about 2 hours ago, Scott just saved a person. He saved a person. It was my daughter, Tracy, who, of course, is my right-hand person, and she's my content director. And her car wasn't going anywhere when she stepped on the gas.
Huh.
And so she pulled over into Scott's place, who's a good friend, been on the show before, and is like 2 miles away from her place. And he had her fixed in an hour, because we're leaving to go to a conference on Monday. She's got a little travel weekend planned, and she's all up in a tizzy. So you talk about Scott having an ideal customer and Tracy being saved.
There you go. It's not about the price. It's about what you did for that customer, right?
I know. Oh, this was great, guys. Thank you. I think we flushed out a lot of great ideas, and I think there's so much in this episode for the audience and for the industry to help identify their ideal customers. Joe Marconi, Osceola Garage in Osceola, New York. It took me so long to learn how to say that. Elite Worldwide Business Development Coach, co-founder of AutoShopOwner.com. Please go to AutoShopOwner.com. Check it out. It's full of great content. Joe writes articles, I think, every day. And columnist for Ratchet and Wrench. Marty Long, Hills and Dales Auto Care, Northwest Canton, Ohio. And Brian Lagas, principal at Speed Sport Tuning, Danbury, Connecticut. Thank you so much for this, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
show.
you.
Great show as always.
Appreciate the time. It was very good.